Hey guys, welcome back to Sweetwater Kennels. Boone here. I'm going to be starting a new series called What's on the Menu. And it's pretty much just going to go over the food and nutrients that I'm feeding my dogs and why. I started out pretty much like everyone else. I started out feeding a very generic, main brand kind of dog food, something that was really, really cheap that I could afford at the time. Um, and over the years, I've slowly started to realize and do more research into the food and the nutrients and how that affected my dogs and how my dogs have changed as I've upgraded from a very cheap, generic kind of kibble to a little bit more expensive to a little bit more expensive, upgrading ingredients. And then I finally kind of, the what really was the tipping point for this is I saw a statistic a while back that said back in like I'm probably going to misquote it, but in like the 1950s or 60s, the average lifespan of a golden retriever was 18 years. And today they're kind of lucky to see 12. And that really opened my eyes. And what the statistic was pointing towards is that is about the time kibble started coming out. And we've seen a steady decline in the health and the longevity of our dogs. And that really opened my eyes to, okay, what am I feeding my dogs is really going to affect them in the long run. So I'm switching over to a raw food diet. It's going to be kind of a 50. I'm still going to feed kibble, and I'm going to go over why. But I'm going to switch over to like a 1/3 to a 50% raw food diet and still keep that kibble there. And I just kind of wanted to share with you how and why and what I'm feeding our dogs. So if you look at the back of a dog food bag, it's going to have your calories per cup and the amount of cups that they recommend per size of dog, per pounds of dog. So if you take my dogs, for example, they are between 60 and 70 pounds usually, and that's 3 to 3.5 cups. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to feed 1/3 of that recommended daily value in the morning. I do this because you don't want to feed too close, before or after a lot of excessive activity. It's kind of like kids with swimming, wait a half hour after you eat before you swim. And kind of the same as if you were to tell them if they got out of swimming, got out of the pool, wait a half hour before you eat, just to kind of help digestion and help make sure they don't get upset tummies. Kind of the same thing with dogs. You don't want any stomach issues. Their stomachs can twist. So you want to stay away from that. So that's why I feed 1/3 in the morning, usually about 1 cup. If I'm going to be doing a lot of exercise, I may even slight that a little bit more and go down to maybe a half or 2/3 of a cup. But I want some nutrients in there. They need some level of calories and energy for the day. A lot of people hunt on an empty stomach and train on an empty stomach. I like that. You want it to be mostly empty, in my opinion, but you also need to have nutrients and calories in there for them to burn so they can have withstand energy throughout the day. So I like to feed 1/3 in the morning and then come back in the evening, and that's kind of their big meal. I know they're going to be, I know they're going to bed. They're not going to have that much strenuous activity, so I feed that healthier big portion in the evening. Now, another thing you have to consider is the type of dog you have and the type of lifestyle they lead. Different dogs have different metabolisms. I have 3 dogs, and all 3 of them have a different metabolism. I have one dog that's got a little bit slower metabolism. She eats a bowl of food that's going to stick to her ribs. You're going to see it if there's a fluctuation. She's taking in more calories than she's burning. You can see it almost immediately. I have another female who can probably eat a whole 40-pound bag of dog food and maybe gain a pound. She just burns it through. She's more active. She's burning more calories. Her metabolism's a lot higher. She's a younger dog too. Those things all add into it. So there's a key component of us being dog owners and dog handlers, or we have to pay attention to the lifestyle. How many calories are they burning? Are they very active? Are they an inside dog? Are they just sitting on the couch? Are they staying inside all day? Are they just what I'm going to say lazy, but they are a slower moving breed, like a basset hound or a dog that just doesn't want to get up and go as much? Or is it a high energy breed like a German short hair pointer, some of your labs, a lot of your working breeds, your collies, your shepherds? They're very high energy. Versatile hunting dogs, high energy as well. If they're that high energy, you might want to start upping or or at least getting a higher calorie per cup food as well. Because I know some of those dogs are so active, they don't like to slow down to eat. So you want to make sure you have a higher calorie per cup. So if they only slow down to eat 1 cup, they are getting a lot of calories in that cup. So that's kind of how and why I am moving to this part kibble, but mostly raw food diet. Now, the kibble that I landed on, I've tested out a lot of kibbles. I love a lot of them. But right now I've settled on Victor, which is a very good brand. They have a lot of good nutrients there, and they got a lot of formulas for different styles of dogs and different lifestyles. They have a very high protein, high fat diet or a formula for dogs that need that diet. They're burning a lot of energy, they're burning a lot of fat, they need to replenish it ASAP. They have formulas for that all the way down to your generic, just staying at home, 6 days a week they're inside, not doing a whole lot. Your 2010s, your 24-14s. That's protein to fat ratios. So they've got a lot of different formulas for a lot of different lifestyles and styles of dog, which I really like. They use a lot of protein. They use a lot of meal, which when you see meal on the back of a bag, it usually just means kind of ground up leftover parts. Um, they're not using a lot of whole muscle. They're using just the ground up leftover parts, which is still protein. It's still good nutrients, and that's why I like that. I don't like to see a lot of corn and soy and wheat up at the top. I want to see a lot of protein, maybe some sweet potatoes, things like that up there as well. But that's usually what I'm looking for. And another reason why I went with Victor is they're a little bit more cost effective. They're easier on the wallet. They're not, it's still pretty expensive, but it's not break the bank. You're paying $100 for a 20-pound bag of dog food or something crazy like that. They're pretty cost effective per pound on what you're feeding your dogs, and you're getting pretty good nutrients from it. Now, what am I going to be introducing for the raw food aspect of their diet? I actually got hooked up with a buddy of mine who started his own meat business. He processes a lot of hogs and cattle, and he's pretty much left with what they call offal, which is all the leftover products, which is a lot of liver, heart, kidneys, tongue, oxtail, a lot of stuff that's not of high value and of high need out in the mainstream public nowadays. So he's got a lot of that left over. So that's a hint, guys. If you know anyone in the meat business, butchers, you know, from farm to table, anything in those realms of around meat and meat processing, reach out to them, see if they have offal, if they have anything left over, because generally it's pretty cheap and they're just trying to get rid of it. And honestly, sometimes they'll give it to you for free. So that's a hint. And that's how I kind of started this. Is he's got a lot of that left over, and I'll go over each video. I'll kind of go over what cut I'm using and what are the benefits of it and why I'm feeding it. I do live on a farm, so we have chickens and we get a lot of eggs. I feed the eggs to the dogs. It's a superfood. It's a superfood for humans, and it's a superfood for dogs for the cardiovascular, for brain function, for skin and coat, eyesight, things like that. I love eggs, love adding that into my dog's diet. I'll also be feeding a lot of berries and vegetables. Like I said, we live on a farm. We do have a berry patch. We have a lot of fruits that we will have. I'll feed them extras for that. And that's usually what I feed them for treats throughout the day is blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, even mulberries, things like that that are really good for them. As well as we grow a lot of tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes are very good for your dogs as well. Don't feed too many of them. They are acidic, but adding a couple in a day or every other day is very good for your dogs. There's a lot of vitamins and nutrients for them. And I'll be going over all the different types of berries, fruits, vegetables, things like that I'll be adding throughout the garden season, and also things that you can pick up at the grocery store for really cheap. Top of mind would be carrot sticks. They're really high in potassium, got a lot of vitamins, good in fiber, and you can get them from relatively cheap. It's $1 or $2 a bag, especially if you go to like Aldi or a place like that. Really cheap. You can get them, not break the bank, and it's really good for your dogs as well. So I'll be going over all of those tips and tricks and things that I add into my dog's diet. But that's just kind of the main overview of what I'm feeding for the protein, for the fruits and vegetables, and giving them a well-rounded diet. So stay tuned, guys. Like I said, I don't know how often I will be posting to this album. I'll try to keep it as much as I'm switching and adding things into the diet. There might be a few shorts. I don't know if you guys are big into shorts, but sometimes I might just be like, oh, I'm adding X, this week. So I'll just do a quick video on that certain ingredient that I'm adding. But we'll see how it goes. But this is the first one, just kind of explaining how and why and what I'm going to be doing in this series and what I'm feeding my dogs. So thanks again, guys. Like this video if you can, subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. And if there's anything that you want to learn a little bit more about or that you feed your dogs that you think I should know about throughout any of these series, please comment and let me know. I'd love to do research and maybe even add it to my dog's diet. So thanks again. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you on the next video.